Welcome back to the Profit School by MeasureU podcast. This is all about being AI first, and it's a conversation between a couple of co-founders, myself, Chris Mercer, and of course, my buddy, Jeff Sauer. Today, we're talking about bringing AI into a sales funnel. How does AI fit into your sales funnel? How can we actually take more advantage of this? So before we go forward, Mr. Sauer, as is our tradition, let's talk about that. Like, what are you thinking about when you're thinking about AI, I guess the AI part of it, and maybe defining or how you think about the sales funnel part of this?
Yeah, it's funny because AI first is everything for us, right? So everything we think about is things that we did 2 years ago or even 1 year ago. Where does AI fit into it? And how do we use it to be more consistent, to get better results, to be more resourceful, and to reduce our overhead? And so today we're going to be talking about in sales. So if you look at a traditional business-to-business sales funnel, even business-to-consumer sales funnel, just somebody buying your stuff, how do you fold AI into it right now? This is something that 6 months from now we can probably talk about other things. But right now, how do we fit AI into our sales funnel? Because we are making a lot of progress here. We are doing a lot of cool stuff, and we're teaching it at ProfitSchool, and we have other companies doing it too. So I think we're ready to the point where we can talk about specifically how do we work AI into our B2B sales funnel. Now, sales funnel, I'm going to go ahead and just get into that definition of what we mean by sales funnel, just so we're all on the same page. Because even Mercer and I, we look at things very similarly, but we have different words to talk about it. So I'm going to do my words. I think Mercer's going to use his words, lots of words, the best words. And we are going to then go forward with, that's our definition. Then we'll get into some strategies for this thing. So, Mercer's like, I'm editing that one out for sure.
I'm definitely keeping that one in. Are you kidding? That's great.
So in our sales funnel, we have, I'm going to define it as this. This is how I've always looked at sales, especially in a B2B setting where you're trying to get another business to buy from you. And that is impression. So they need to see you, see that you're there. They need to see your face or your name or your company, whatever it is. An impression is definitely not a lead, but a lead is where somebody at least expresses or raises their hands, maybe tentatively, that they're somewhat interested in learning about what you have to say. Whether that's a somebody who's on your website that you capture their email address, other things where they're doing research, so you know who they are. They're raising their hand a little bit. Then you get into qualification. This is where the people who raise their hands a little bit, you tell them if they're qualified to work with you. So you're in the driver's seat there a little bit more. Then you get into the pitch/proposal, which is where you're presenting the goods, making sure they're fully aware of everything you can do, and then giving them an opportunity to work with you, saying, hey, here's what it's going to take to work with me and my company. And then finally they purchase, and then you got to onboard them. And so those are the different phases that I loosely go through on anybody who buys from us. Anybody who buys service in a B2B setting, you could use this for anything that's a one-to-one type of sale. How about you?
Yeah, it's very simple. I think to take it a step higher, because I think what we're both doing is moving somebody through that awareness journey, right? So regardless of B2B or B2C, there's still a person on the other side. That's how I think about it. So I personally don't care about the B2C, B2B, though I know there's different tactics. Don't get me wrong. The strategies are the same though, which is they're unaware of you. They have no idea you're even a thing. So you got to make them aware, right? That's like the first step of the thing. If they're aware of you as a brand or a thing, they're not aware of necessarily the problem they have. They're aware of a symptom, maybe that you made them aware of or that they might be aware of, but they're not aware of the problem yet. So you got to make them aware of that, this is the actual problem I have. Then once they agree, yes, I actually have this problem, of course, you have a solution. So then it's, okay, how do I make them aware of the solution? Then, this specific product is the solution. So then you sell them the product, right? And then ultimately fulfill. So everything that we're saying the word wise is that same, all it is just awareness levels, right? We were joking earlier where I think they end that with like, the customer is the most aware. So it's like, let's get enlightened customers, fully aware customers. But the way that I describe that, again, same thing we're saying, just in different ways, is it's like you have to ask them in the beginning. You just have to start with that initial ask. How do you ask? You can ask with a Facebook ad. You can ask with an email. You can ask with a text, right? There's lots of different ways you can ask. If you have a community, you can ask in the communities, right? You can ask on social media. Like there's all sorts of stuff you can do to ask. When you've asked them, we need to know if they're considering like some sort of engagement where they're moving forward saying, yeah, okay. Are they considering some sort of conversation? That could be leaving a comment like in social media funnels. That's kind of what might be some sort of engagement signal. To your point, becoming a lead where they're on the list or they've got the check, the white paper, or they've joined your community or whatever the thing is, or they subscribe to YouTube channel. I would almost consider like a lead style concept in some way. Then you've got your qualification when they're actually, now we're talking about how do I buy this? Is this thing right for me? So there's going to be offer pages where users can qualify themselves, right? It doesn't have to be you on the call qualifying, though there are going to be times where for higher ticket sales, of course, you're going to be on the call qualifying. Then you've got the, pitch and proposal, setting everything up. Again, offer pages do that. So do actual pitch and proposals when you're doing high ticket sales. And then you've got the transaction when they buy it, right? Whether that's, hey, here's the Stripe link, you go ahead and pay the invoice if it's high ticket, or if it's just, purchase my whatever on the internet. And then you've got the fulfillment side where you deliver on whatever it is that you've had. So I think, like you said, exact same things are definitely different ways to tactically implement those. And today, I guess we could focus mostly on the conversation where the human's talking to other humans, which makes the most sense, which is going to happen a lot of times, mostly in the B2B space. Does that sound fair?
Yeah, it sounds great. Cool. Let's do it.
Let's dive in. So in terms of AI for impressions, AI first for impressions, and getting that helping us to ask people to get them a little more aware. How would we do that?
Yeah. What I think about, and this is a slow play, so I would love to get some thoughts on it, but it's ultimately, I talked about it in the last episode about being a customer media marketing company. So taking your marketing and turning it into media, and that is taking a long form YouTube video. So ultimately this podcast gets to YouTube, right? It automatically gets to YouTube, or not automatically. We have a process, but we record this podcast, then we put it on YouTube, and then it's there, right? Mm-hmm. Now we could actually turn that into other impressions. So it turns out that when we put it on YouTube, we get a certain number of impressions, certain number of people who watch it. It's really the diehards who are watching long form video right now. But then if we use something called Opus Clip, and we take our podcast and we have it turn it into 30-second sound bites, guess what ends up happening? Those get hundreds or thousands of views. So Mercer going on a little rant for 30 seconds on something, or Jeff going on a rant for 30 seconds ends up being something that gets viewed a lot more than what we're doing than the whole podcast, which is counterintuitive, but that makes sense because there's just everybody's addicted to short form things.
Easily digestible. Yeah. Right. Yep.
Hooks. Everything's hooks. Like it's what pop music now is. Pop music is just hooks. They're just, does that make sense? Like they're just basically like one sentence sound bites, and that's what music is. And that's what's popular because it appeals to commonality, common experience. And so how do you basically impressions are about how would you get to and appeal to common experiences so people understand that you're out there, that you're even in the consideration set, that somebody listens to that soundbite and they're unaware, right? Mercer talked about the awareness levels, and then they're like, oh, I didn't even know I had that problem. And so AI is a way that you can take your ideas. And so I use one example of a YouTube video. Most of you don't have YouTube channels. What about a client call? This is what we do. After we finish a client call or a coaching call, we automatically transcribe that and turn it into social posts. So we've created an automation that does that, an AI agent that will take anything, it will take it out of our Google Drive recording, it'll distill it and turn it into 6 social posts, and then we can just hit send on, and suddenly we are getting impressions about these problems we've been solving. So we're taking, even though we solved a problem on a client call, we're turning that to people who are unaware of us, and we're getting their attention, and they're like, oh yeah, I should probably listen to this person. That's worth a follow. That's worth sticking around. That's worth reading this thing. And even if they're not following you, if they dwell on that for long enough, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, they're going to keep on showing you my stuff over and over again. That happens all the time. You don't have to do any action. They just learn that. Like, oh, they dwell on Jeff's stuff, so we're going to keep on doing it. And so ultimately, it's taking your intellectual capital and turning it into something with AI that gives you impressions. Now, in the past, and I'll hand it over to you, I used to have a lot of struggle with this because it used to be I'd have to hire somebody to watch the recording, find the 6 points they liked, and then write the tweets and do all that stuff. And they would never do it to my standard. It was always bad. They'd end up leaving because it's tedious and thankless work. And I'd have them for almost no time, and I would be back to ground zero. And I'd waste hundreds of dollars. Now you can do it for less than $20 a month. You can do this to have that in place, and it's amazing. And so that's, to me, is like, I would use AI to take the things that I wanted to do, which is to get your thought leadership out there, things that you're already saying internally, and put an external face to it. And we've made a lot of strides in doing that with AI. We tried it before manually. It wasn't working for us.
Yeah, I like this idea of impressions because it's from a measurement perspective. We always talk about, when you're measuring for the results, we talk about this ACT model, right? Where it's how many people did we ask, how many of those considered, how many of those actually transacted. And then in this case, the first quote unquote sale of the sales funnel. Cause I think everybody focuses on the end of the funnel, but they're all required sales along the way. For me, they're all equally important and necessary. So the first one, you're measuring by impressions, but really what we're doing is we're asking for attention. And we're coming up with different ways to ask them to give us attention as the value. Hey, I'm going to give you this content. I need just you to give me attention in exchange. That's it. As opposed to like, $10,000, which I'll be asking for later in the sales funnel. But right now it's just attention. And using AI to create that. Like I'm in the process right now of using AI, creating Gemini gems, where I've got knowledge documents that know all about measurement marketing. They know all about me. They know all about customer messaging. They know all about social media. And I can go to them and say, okay, I need a social media post that's going to talk about blah, blah, blah. That's a thought leadership around, da, 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 da. Please do. And it'll come up. And now I've got all these different things that before, to your point, I'd be like, kind of that feeling of staring at a blank page on social media, be like, what super creative thing am I going to do today that's going to be amazing? And you just start going, never mind, I'll just get back to work. And then for me, I just never use social media. Well, now I'm using it more and more, and it's because of AI. It's not necessarily because I'm copying and pasting everything from AI into the post. That's not what we're saying to do. Though I think, to be honest, like that's probably in 6 months what everyone's going to be doing, because it's just going to be so good it won't matter anymore. Like, you can tell, but you should personalize it. And that's why I did the way I did with the gem, is I personalized it with my voice, my tone. The gem understands me, which is why I can copy and paste and maybe change a word or two, and I don't have to change a ton, because I've set it up from the beginning to be personalized to me. So it's more likely to say what I would say anyway, but it's a great way to de-stress from that. How do I get this done? Or what do I need to say? Or how do I get the thing started by using AI? It just gets the momentum out of the way, which I love. So, tools like Opus Clips, mentioned for videos, things like that, using Gemini gems, ChatGPT assistants can also help you out pretty quickly. So that's what I would say on the ask side. How about the getting the leads and, where they're starting to raise their hand and, considering moving through the journey here?
Yeah. So for leads, I think it's really about making an offer for them to ascend or to do the next step ultimately. And so this usually comes from your impression. So an impression might be on a platform, and then at the end you're like, hey, leave a comment that says like, hey, do you want this template? Comment template, and we'll send it to you. And people use something like ManyChat, where they look at the comments and then they DM somebody and they say, hey, here's the lead magnet, or give me your email address, and then here's a lead magnet. So you can turn them into leads that way. Traditionally, contact forms on your website, that's what I came up doing. It's like just they would contact us, or a lead form. It could even be something where they book time on your calendar, like, hey, book time on my Calendly. I have a Calendly right now that before they can book, it has a survey and it asks them 5 questions, and then it has routing. If they're not qualified, then I say, hey, you know what? You're not qualified right now. Just keep on, go do something for free and learn about this thing, and then come back when you're ready. And then if they are qualified, they get a book on my calendar. So it's just basically using these tools to intelligently help somebody and automate the process of making them from a person who you're asking for their attention. Once you have that attention, how do you get permission to continue to talk to them? And permission just works in so many different ways now. It used to be an email address and then email them and automate them. There's just so many other ways to do it now that in so many ways is good, because it allows you to do platform specific items. It allows you to be all over the place and to get things, and ultimately come back to getting their permission, getting their email address or whatever it is, so you can continue that conversation. And then just where AI fits into it for me is that almost every one of these tools is using AI in order to optimize the conversation. So you're saying the right things, or using AI to come up with what the responses should be, using AI to develop your lead form. I do that. Like, hey, what question should I ask to qualify somebody? I just use AI now. I used to have to think about that and get analysis paralysis as to what question should I ask. Yeah. Now I'm getting ideas, and I'm using your ping pong prompting method to say, well, you came up with 5 questions. What questions won't get answered with these 5 questions that I still need to know? Yeah. Right. So you use that as a way to sort of help figure things out. So I think that it's mostly just getting this done as fast as possible and not making that a source of friction. Capturing a lead has always been a source of friction for the person who's the lead. Contact form, how much money do you make? That type of stuff. How do you make that as easy as possible using these new tools? How about you? Do you have an AI twist on that? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm kind of, it's funny because I'm kind of like a one-trick pony, but I'm really, really good at that trick, which is the Gemini gem building stuff, where I will build a knowledge document and say, okay, now I need a sales manager. And I want the sales manager who knows all things about sales, right? Or the sales trainer, whatever it is, to come in there and help me create something that's likely to be necessary for this market. So it's like, hey, I'm asking for this attention. Here's the attention of people that we now have because we used AI to get the attention. So, hey, AI, here's the attention of the people we now have. Here's ultimately what I want them to do. What's that lead? What do they need? Right? What are they looking for that's going to be most likely to be useful at this point in time for them in order to ultimately get to the point where, we're working together, if that makes sense for both parties. And AI can come up, like to your point, it comes up with those ideas that says, oh, we can do this, we can do this, we can do this. And you go like, oh, that's cool. Go ahead and do that one. And it gives you all of that stuff. So again, I build custom gems for this. I don't just go to the chat GPT and start doing that because that's where you do get generic, still useful, still will help you move forward. And I'm not saying like, if you've never used AI before, you should just use the regular chat interface. You should absolutely do that. You will move forward no matter what. And that is your good enough to get going. The make it better later version is you're not doing that. You're always interacting with your own gems that are built for specific reasons through the chat interface, because then you get much higher quality responses. But that takes a little bit of practice, right? Obviously, we've got some stuff in ProfitSchool, by the way, for those that are not in the community there yet, that we can help you out with that if you want some of that. But that's how I'm using it, because I want that. I don't want to have to make a decision. I think decisions are effort, and I don't like that because it's like, what if you're wrong? But if I use AI, and AI makes the decision, and don't get me wrong, I say this every time as a disclaimer, I know AI is not a thing. It's not alive. It's still me making the decision, but I'm offloading the decision to AI and I'm going, yeah, that answer seems right. That's easier than what decision do I need to make? It's, oh, the answer seems right. Yeah, cool. We'll go with that. The beauty for me on this is I'm not emotionally attached to the answer because it was AI's answer in a way, even though I'm the one accepting it. But so if it doesn't work, I can pivot faster because there's no emotional attachment to, well, I got to make this work. And the market should have wanted my awesome idea for the lead. Now it's like, well, that was just AI's idea for the lead and it didn't work. And that's fine. What other idea do you have? And you move on and you can iterate faster with AI. And I think that's a huge benefit of using, especially customized AIs, because you're not putting something out there that you don't think is good, right? You're not just doing it because AI told you to, because that's silly. But if you agree with it and you try it and it doesn't work and you need to pivot really quickly, use your AI again. And that's using that AI allows you to grease the gears a little bit. So I think that's underutilized as a benefit of AI for all of these stages, but specifically for this one, because it's like, well, the lead didn't work. Okay, well, let's fix that. Because if we can't fix this, we're never going to get people to talk to, Yeah.
And I like that. I mean, basically, you're talking about a technique, right? So I want to say that AI is as a tool and as a technique. We're talking about it in both. So I often go to the tool like Opus Pro, but also there's a technique of how do you consult an LLM in order to get an answer or to create things. And so there's value in both of these things. Not every off the shelf tool is going to give you what you need, but you don't always have time to build out the technique or to master that thing. So you got to sort of decide, what am I going to do, or try both. Like, hey, if the tool is not giving what you need, then you might need to create a technique. Or you might need to hire an expert or a consultant or read a book or whatever. And honestly, if you're not sure what the technique is, here's another hack: is you just basically say, give me the technique that's from the 5 books about what I'm trying to learn. So use $100 million leads from Alex Hormozy. You use this, and that, and and off these 5 books, help me determine how to turn these people into leads. Use somebody else's intellectual capital. AI can do that. So that's how you get the technique if you don't have it yourself. And this is a lot of what Mercer's doing is that it's like using AI's vast knowledge in order to help him see what techniques they could be and then refining it. And that's why there's less emotional attachment, because you didn't have to learn all that on your own. You're just borrowing from that knowledge. Sometimes that works amazingly. Sometimes it works poorly. But the cool thing is that pretty fast if it works poorly. Then you just go back to the drawing board, because there isn't that emotional attachment. There's no sunk cost theory or sunk cost fallacy when AI did the research for you. You just go and have it do another one. Since the cost of doing it is almost zero. So it can get over some of these limiting beliefs pretty fast by doing the technique. So I love that you're representing that piece of it. Qualification is pretty much all technique. It's basically business rules as to whether you want to work with this person or not. You shouldn't be having to make these human decisions when you think about it. Like, should you really be emotionally thinking if you want to work with that person or not? Or should it meet your criteria? Anytime you decide that you want to take on a client based on emotion or boasting or them talking about how big their budget is, even though they're not the right fit for you, you regret having them. So I think qualification is almost purely technique. There are tools, though. There's tools that can be your sales development representative that will actually do the qualification call to make sure somebody's qualified. There are tools that can do this piece, but it's all based on your technique. It's all based on your criteria, right? And so I think AI, this is the first thing with AI that people have been doing this forever. Like there was no real limit to qualifying people or to ingesting the data and deciding if it's the right person or not, all the way back to like Chat GPT 1.0 in 2022. Like it probably could have done that. Maybe not as well as now, but qualification is it's binary. Are they qualified or not? And so that's where AI fits in pretty easily. Any thoughts on that one?
No, just two thoughts, I guess. Is one is the qualification stuff you talked about with the survey is important. That's still kind of AI, right? It's like, hey, I'm going to set up an automation that says if you're not qualified, if I know that at the lead stage, let's just bypass you and get this thing and you're in a nurture sequence until you're one day qualified, right? So I think that's an important thing right there. And then in terms of your qualifications on the clients, I think I know there's tools out there. There's always going to be new ones that are these voice SDRs. There's tools out there that would automatically email. There's tools out there that automatically go after LinkedIn. There's tools out there that automatically text and do all of that. And I think they're going to get better and better and better. I'm a little nervous of that just because I'm old. That's only reason. But I'm not sure where that, how that goes. And, all of a sudden is the chatbot going to go crazy on somebody's call and they're recording it. And all of a sudden we're on social media for all the wrong reasons because of AI. Right. So it's like, is that possible? Maybe, but it's becoming less and less and less and less and less likely every day because the companies are just really nailing that stuff. And I think AI is going to be huge for taking leads and qualifying them so that you're not talking, and you can start to scale that, right? A little easier. So then you're not talking to somebody who's not qualified.
Yeah. Talking about pitch and proposal now, this one, it's ripe for AI as well. There are tools that will create your pitch deck. There are AI tools that will create your proposal. There's tons of them. I might even recommend a specific one because they're almost a dime a dozen at this point, because a lot of this is common knowledge and they're just giving you structure and the sexy visuals that go on top of it. Technique wise, I've been using a ton of custom GPTs and building my own things based on my intellectual capital from having a lot of resources on how to pitch and how to do a proposal. At ProfitSchool, we have courses about how to write a proposal, how to do pitching, how to price your products, and everything like that. So we've built custom or basically AI bots or AI assistants that will help make sure that you're making the right pricing decisions, pitching decisions, and so on. And so if you wanted to tap into that, you can take my technique and use it right inside of ProfitSchool to make that happen. And then not only that, but ultimately, if it's just getting a deck going and you have a template and you know what you need to do, but you've never done it, that's where AI can really come into play and make that so much easier on you. So I look at this as like, this used to be the thing that people were the most scared of that I've coached. I've coached 100 to 200 different agency owners on everything about their business. And it wasn't so, I mean, they were always afraid of how to get leads and everything like that, but they would figure it out. But then like the proposal, like how do I pitch somebody? How do I propose to them? Was always like this thing where people would self-sabotage or they just wouldn't do anything because they were afraid of making it perfect. I think AI gets over that perfection trap and allows you just to create something that's good enough to get going. And then you can decide, yeah, I like this or I don't, but you're making a decision from a position of, again, not having the sunk cost, not having the emotional investment. You're like, is this the right thing for the client? And so I feel like this is both a combination of tools and techniques. And honestly, like, I don't know why anybody would develop slides manually anymore, right? Like I don't. I just have AI generate slides, or at least what's going to go on the slides, and I can either paste it into our template, or soon enough, might already be there. I can just have it fill in my template accordingly.
Yeah, it won't be long till Google Slides are building themselves for everybody. Yep. With Gemini, I totally agree on all points there. How about on that purchase side of things as we move into the fulfillment?
Yeah, I think as far as, it's a good question. I definitely use it to write statements of work, which might still be in the proposal phase. Mm-hmm. I use AI to help follow up with people. Since we're recording, you can record the pitch. I would recommend doing that as long as the prospect allows it. You can sort of figure out what was going on there, what was the questions, what are the things to do. So you can use that to automate your follow-up. It's more of a systems thing for me, though, honestly, than it is necessarily an AI thing to get somebody to purchase from you.
Well, I tell you, on the AI part of that is going back to your conversations. Let's say you have two sets of conversations. Here's all the ones that sold. Here's all the ones that didn't. Yeah. And going back to AI and be like, go build prototype avatars off these two. What are these? There's something different between them. What is the main issue between these two things? Mm-hmm. And then once it understands that, it's like, oh, well, customer A has budget. Customer B doesn't have budget. right? Maybe that's the thing, right? Or prospect A has budget, prospect B doesn't. So it's like, okay, well, generally speaking, maybe there's an opportunity for what is their budget? Oh, well, it's half the other one. Well, maybe there's a product there we can create and open up new sales opportunities for those people who are in that particular thing. Or it's, okay, they say they don't have budget, but maybe it's, we're not doing a good enough job promoting the value. Prospect A is just he's ready to buy. Like they knew prospect B, we didn't really properly exchange the value that we are delivering. And so they decided it wasn't worth it, is what they're really telling us. They have the budget because they're wasting money on other stuff. They're just not wasting it with us. Right. So it's like, how do we get that? And so maybe that's kind of the way you could use AI to analyze, wins and losses would be a good idea.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah, and then what was your offer? That's another big one, is like analyzing the offer. We've created an offers bot that will use my book service stacking in order to help you understand if you created a proper stack or not, according to what I write in the book. And that's the type of thing that you can use to just double check and make sure that it's there and make sure that everything is coherent and that it makes sense and that it's following what I call a best practice. It's basically how every single service is sold. It's by stacking the different offers together. And so you can get a second opinion on that using our AI techniques at ProfitSchool as well. And then finally, we have onboarding fulfillment, which is after the sale. But I think that, I like to, our operating system is OPS, offers, products, and systems. Offers basically are how you make money, but then you need a product that you need to deliver on, you need to fulfill on that, and you need systems. And so this is really, that part is ripe for AI. The different pieces, like whatever you're selling, if your delivery isn't at least 30% aided by AI, then you're doing it wrong. I can just say that. And that is technique, meaning like checking your code to make sure, editing the document, making sure that the slides are there, taking your observations and turning it into something coherent, and just using various tools in order to make sure that you get the timeline right. So I created another AI assistant that basically you upload your SOW and it will tell you your entire onboarding plan by week. And then you can export that as a file, put it into your project management system, and you have an onboarding plan for that and moving forward. So there's all kinds of stuff you can do, tools and techniques around that as well.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I think there's a lot when it comes to the fulfillment side that AI can help you with, specifically to the automation as well, especially if you've been around for a little while and you have a process. And we're doing this now because we've been doing this for over a decade, right? So we have processes that are already human implemented because they've had to be, because AI wasn't around 10 years ago. So now as we're going through the same process, we sell something for, like, say, dedicated optimization, by measurement systems or things like this, where we go and we optimize the company's site just through the power of measurement, right? Using measurement marketing to do that. We have a specific process for that. Well, now we're going through, instead of going, oh, well, this is how we did it yesterday. It's, well, this is how we did it yesterday. Is there something in here that we can now automate, where we can bring in AI or set up an end-to-end automation or something else to be able to trigger that process? The fulfillment is, like, to your point, at least 30% taken over. And then every time we're trying to do better and better and better at that. So every cycle that we're going through that process, we're always looking now. First question is, okay, here's the process. Should we do this, or can we automate this now? So that we don't have to do it again and offload that stuff. So that helps you get your fulfillment faster. That improves your capacity to be able to sell more. So now there's no bottlenecks. And so the funnel can get bigger and hopefully everybody can make more revenue. So with that, any final thoughts before we wrap it up?
No, I mean, if you're not using AI either for tools or technique at every single step of the way, then you're missing out. I would say that right now, actually, I mean, it should be taking at least 30% of your time. You can save at least 30% of your time, but actually I would say 80 to 90% can be saved or reduced by implementing what we've talked about here. I know it's hard to name specific tools because there's just so many of them. Really, we like to focus on techniques here because techniques are the things that become proprietary for you, the intellectual capital you have. We have a lot of that in ProfitSchool. So make sure that you revisit the ProfitSchool community because we've added so many new things in there as far as AI bots, AI agents, AI assistants, everything. It's all under the sun. It's all in our community. So if you've been listening for a while and you checked out our community a while ago, we've completely changed it. So come in and revisit, learn it for the first time, and make yourself a lot better in this process.
Absolutely. And with that, we will wrap up this AI first conversation. And remember, the whole point of Profit School by MeasureU podcast is to help you to ask that question. How do I get this done with AI first? So with that, if you've learned a trick or two, you've got a new thought, share it with somebody else, talk to somebody else about it. If you happen to mention that you heard it on the Profit School podcast, that would be greatly appreciated. Of course, leave reviews wherever you possibly can. Help us out. And we would love to see you at ProfitSchool.com. Thanks again for listening to this episode, and we will see you on the next one. Take care.